Good evening and Merry Christmas to you. Hey, buddy. January 1st of this year, my family of four littles and my wife and I packed up a small suitcase because we were going to go visit my parents for a couple of weeks while we renovated some parts of our house. We had a pretty modest goal. You know, we're going to do just a little bit of work, swap out some appliances and maybe freshen up some grout here and there, maybe paint some things. And as things go, it was an ever-increasing project with ever more difficulties. Things kept breaking or not quite going like we planned. And so we found ourselves slowly moving in. We ended up spending 99 days at my parents' house. They are saints. We love them dearly. But it was a very different packing procedure for moving in. We brought one kind of bag there, but leaving it was so much stuff being loaded back into the car. It's bedding and all the stuff that had ended up in cleared out closets for us. So we had space to real settle in there. It was favorite cookware or dishes that we wanted to be able to prepare food with. We moved in. We really moved in, and that changed the way things went. And in moving in, we had a different experience than had we just shown up for a visit. Visiting is fun. Grandparents' house, if you don't live with your grandparents and you get to visit your grandparents, it's so fun. And the adventure of that for our kids is exactly what you think it was. It's just life at 100 miles an hour, new toys or my old toys that are now new to them. They're so excited about it. It's favorite foods. It's very few people saying no. It's just so much fun for them to be in that space. And so when I think about moving in, it's a distinct thing. It's a special thing. And so when we think about Jesus moving in, we call it the incarnation, as in coming into the world, and carnal, like carnation, not carnation is a flower, but the flesh, the carnality, the meat and bones of a person. He took it on, stepped into the world, and we're better for it. Let's look at a scripture together. John 1:14. The Word became a human being. He made his home with us. We have seen his glory. It is the glory of the one and only. It's something different that God didn't visit us, but that he came to be with us. He made his home with us. I was struck by this once when I was just kind of browsing the artwork of a guy that illustrates for the Rabbit Room Press. You might know of them. They do the Every Moment Holy. We've read some of their prayers in service before. But one of the illustrators that does stuff for them had a simple painting. It's a silhouette of Christ sideways with a stick, and he's poking a fire. And it's night, and it's just like what I do when I'm in front of a fire. Like, I can sit and stoke a fire for hours. And something about seeing this Jesus in that place just made me go like a light bulb moment of just, he took on flesh, and he sat many nights, I'm sure, because he didn't, flick off the lights at home. It was sitting around a fire, poking and prodding at it. There was something about him being human and man in that space that just felt profound to me in a way that it hadn't before. When we tell the story of the Garden of Eden, kids, who are the people that we talk about there? Adam and Eve. And it starts good, and then what happens? What's the bad part of that story? They sin. They fall. It's the fall of mankind. It's the tainting of humanity. And they leave the garden. God is gracious, and he gives them the things that they need to care for themselves. And he says, I need to move you out of here. But the incarnation, the birth of Jesus, is not him saying, I can't be around that. It's him saying, I'm going to step in wholly into that. Totally God, totally man, in the most profound of ways. So let's read the Christmas story. We'd be remiss not to. Out of Luke chapter 2. In those days, Caesar Augustus made a law. It required that a list be made of everyone in the whole Roman world. It was the first time a list was made of the people while Quirinius was governor of Syria. Luke is giving us all kinds of names here. Names are really important because names tie you to historical people. So he's giving us the facts we need to know. This happened, this was real, this is a big deal. We can keep going. All went to their own towns to be listed. So Joseph went also. He went from the town of Nazareth in Galilee to Judea. That is where Bethlehem, the town of David, was. Joseph went there because he belonged to the family line of David. He went there with Mary to be listed. Mary was engaged to him. She was expecting a baby. While Joseph and Mary were there, the time came for the child to be born. She gave birth to her first baby. Now, silent night or not, there's two camps there. It's a silent night because it's quiet and it's out in the tumble down stable, right? Or it's a loud night because there's animals and it's a birth, and that's a whole other thing. And in some ways, I think it's most profoundly a silent night because the first coming is a baby in a no-neck, middle of the woods kind of place. That's the phrase is not coming to me, but that he's just out in the middle of nowhere. He's this little dumpy town, this little baby. I was watching the World Calculator. I don't know if you've ever seen those, but it's a running tabulation of how many people are born in a moment, how many people are dying in a moment. And I started a timer for 10 seconds, and there were 44 births right now today in 10 seconds. That's crazy to me. So I wasn't aware of any of them in that 10 seconds, and they just slipped into the world. And yet, when he comes back again, which we're all waiting for, it will be the exact opposite of a silent night. It will not be a sneaky slipping in. It will be announced triumphantly, and we will be celebrating and glorying in his return. So very different. I'm looking just with deep anticipation for that. It was a boy, it says. She wrapped him in large strips of cloth, and then she placed him in a manger. That's because there was no guest room where they could stay. This baby from heaven has moved in with mankind. If you've been doing the family devotionals out of the Advent booklet, there's the bookmark that has the prayer on the back of it. I don't know if you've looked at it, but it's a rehearsal of the name Emmanuel. When the caller says Emmanuel, the people respond, God is with us. The Noetzels have been doing it. We love it. It's the only reason we keep doing it. It's the only reason that it's still on the postcard is because I say, this is my favorite thing we've ever done at this church. I'm going to make sure it keeps being a part of the fellowship rhythm. And so we keep putting it on the card. But God is with us. God is with us. And what does it mean then that God is with us? Well, just the first ones that came to mind from where I was kind of turning this over was that sin no longer has the final word. Sin no longer has the final word. With the birth of Christ, there is hope for something else, something better. Separation from God doesn't have to be permanent. That's so hopeful to me, so hopeful that we can join him and live in him. Let's look at John chapter 15, verse 4 in the NIRV, the nerve, we call it in the elementary services. Remain joined to me, just as I also remain joined to you. No branch can bear fruit by itself. It must remain joined to the vine. In the same way, you can't bear fruit unless you remain joined to me. And to pick up on the moving in, making home language that we've been kind of teasing here, let's look at the message together. It says this: live in me, make your home in me, just as I do in you. In the same way that a branch can't bear grapes by itself, but only by being joined to the vine, you can't bear fruit unless you are joined to me. Jesus came to make his home with us, but we have to stay and make our home with him by faith. And so with the Noetzels, the 6 of us, we moved out of my parents' house. Finally, April 9th, my wife's birthday, we moved home kind of unceremoniously. It kind of surprised us, and we were suddenly at home kind of shell-shocked. What just happened? And we've got bags to unpack now, and we kind of miss our roommates, like the people we were just doing life with. We miss the meals, and we don't miss the laundry. They had way more laundry than they'd had in years. I mean, we missed being there. And that's not the story we have in the scriptures. God doesn't move out. Sure, there is a resurrection of Christ after his execution. There's a resurrection, but the Spirit now lives in believers. God hasn't moved out. He's actually moved deeper and further in, closer still. God is with us. So what can we do? Let's make room. This year, let's make room. Let's dig out push things aside and in the same way my parents had to clear out closets and push furniture away and make some pads on the bed for all the kids, let's make room for the Spirit in our life. And I just kind of in a fast brainstorm pulled some ideas out here. And you might have any number of them, but last year my family, I think I talked to y'all, we were gonna start this devotional book together. And I think 1 or 2 of you said, we're interested, sure, we'll follow up. Exploring the Bible Together by David Murray. We made it to the halfway point in the year, and so we're not making any new decisions. We got another half a book to read this year. Maybe we'll finish before the new year, maybe we won't. I don't know. But pick something that can get you going in a trajectory of making room, making space, creating those things. Maybe it's you've not been in community or you've stepped out of community and you just need to find some people to be faithful with again. Pick somebody, find somebody, ask for some help, and let's get you meeting with people. Maybe it's you have stepped out of serving and you feel like there's just nowhere where I put my hand to the plow for the kingdom of God. And maybe it's at church, maybe it's somewhere else, maybe it's in your workplace, maybe it's in your neighborhood. Fan that to flame, pick that thing, and go for it. Maybe it's just the disciplines. I know we revisit that Rhythms book. It's online. You can download it for free. Look at it. Pick a discipline and just go, I'm going to practice this for a little bit. Something about memorizing or meditating or something about just celebrating. I need to pick one that I've been down and I just need to celebrate. Or maybe it's in a little bit of preparation for this next year. We're going to spend the first 4 weeks of January looking at Jonah and the next couple of weeks looking at Ruth. And so maybe it's just crack those books open and start reading and start saying, well, God, what do you have for me today looking at Jonah then, reading in those texts? So irregardless of how you choose to make this space, we have an opportunity, friends and family, to make a home with Jesus. Jesus has made a home with us, in us. His birth is such a clear evidence of that. Jesus was born to make his home with us, and by trusting him, we make our home with him as well. Would you pray with me? And then we'll sing another song together. God, thank you for the birth of Christ and the hope that comes with it, the joy that we have in reflecting on that day and all the days since that the way has been made for us to be with you. You are with us, and we can be with you. As we have maybe some downtime, maybe not, between here and January 1st, would you use the next week just for some reflection? Give us the opportunity to see in our life the things that maybe we ought to push aside for the making of space, that we would more welcome you into our heart, into our life, into the work that you can do in us, and make room for you here. We're grateful for the cross. We're grateful for the manger. We're grateful for the eternal throne, and we're looking forward to the day you come back again. We love you.